I was 15 years old when I got my first tattoo. No, it wasn't in a professional studio. No sterilized needles, no neatly arranged ink caps, no buzzing machines and expertly wielded by tattoo artists. No, I sat on my buddy's unmade bed with his homemade tattoo machine. It was rough, crude, and unplanned, like many of the choices I made at this time. Now, when he asked me what I wanted on this tattoo, I thought about it for a moment and I was like, a dragon. I had no real reasoning behind it, honestly. It was just a gut feeling. But he hesitated. He obviously not the best artist. And he said, how about a cross instead? And at 15 years old, I was like, sure, bro, that's cool. And what followed was a painful few minutes of sharp stings and crude technique. And when it was done, I went up and I looked in the mirror expecting to see this super bold, meaningful tattoo. But instead, I saw what looked like a capital T, like the letter T. It was far from a masterpiece, but it was mine, my first mark. At the time, I thought it was just about getting a tattoo, about proving myself to the world. But I had no idea how much tattoos would end up shaping me, how they would become more than just ink under my skin. I didn't know yet that my first mark would set me on a path that would test me, break me, and ultimately save me. Of course, when my mom saw it, she wasn't thrilled, but instead of cracking down on me, she gave me a deal and said, wait until you're 16, and then I'll take you to get a real one. And I took up on that. And it was on my 16th birthday, I found myself in the dimly lit, smoke-filled tattoo studio, sitting in an old tattoo chair, facing a 6-foot-tall, bearded biker named CeeLo. And I remember sitting there, and he was needle dragging across the skin, dry wiping with that paper towel, and it was real. That was nuts, but it wasn't unbearable. In fact, it felt like a rite of passage. And halfway through, CeeLo leaned back and exhaled a puff of cigarette smoke because, yes, he was smoking. And he said, you know, boy, you're sitting pretty good. And it was that compliment that sparked something in me. Maybe it was the adrenaline, the endorphins, or just the sheer novelty of it all, but I felt a sense of pride. I looked at him and said, I want to be a tattoo artist. Will you teach me? He sat back, took a long drag out of his cigarette, studied my face for what felt like an eternity, and replied, hell no, boy. It was that rejection that stung more than the tattoo itself. It was my first real taste of gatekeeping in the tattoo industry. That unspoken rule that dictates who got in and who stayed out. But that moment, those two words did not crush me. If anything, they fueled me. At the time, I didn't understand. I had just stepped onto a path that was bigger than I could see. This wasn't just about learning to tattoo. It was about learning resilience, learning to carve my own way forward, even when the doors were shut. And eventually, the same path would lead me through trials much darker than I could have imagined. Ones that would test me, not just my career, but my very existence. So, some reflection questions. Think about a pivotal moment in your life when someone told you no. How did it affect your path? Have you ever experienced an initiation moment? Something that marked a transition in your life. What was it? And what is a passion or calling that you feel drawn to? Have you pursued it, or have you let rejection hold you back? And end on this exercise. This is your first mark. Whether it's a tattoo, a significant life decision, or a personal challenge, reflect on that first major mark in your life. Write a short paragraph about it, how it shaped you, and what lessons it holds for you today. Just drop it in the comments below. Let's continue the story and figure out your passion for your future.